Long before the stadium lights, the roar of the crowd, the captain's armband, or the weight of a nation's hopes rested on his shoulders, a single stark prediction was made about Harry Kane. This wasn't a forecast whispered by a seasoned coach, a sharp-eyed scout, or a television pundit paid for their hot takes. It was a prophecy delivered with the unflinching honesty only family can provide. It came from his own grandfather, the man who helped put a football at his feet. He looked at the boy, a child with fire in his eyes, and saw only two possible destinations at the end of his road. He would end up as a criminal, or he would become a millionaire. There was no middle ground, no quiet life, no ordinary future. It was to be a life of infamy or a life of glory. This is the story of how that boy, a kid, from an unlikely fusion of Irish musicians and London footballers, took one half of that prediction and made it his destiny, proving the other half spectacularly and inspiringly wrong. So, how does a boy from the suburbs of London grow up to become England's most legendary goalscorer, the kind of striker whose name is spoken in the same breath as the all-time greats? To understand the man, you have to rewind past the highlights, past the trophies, and even past his first kick of a ball. You have to go back to where it all truly began, not on a manicured pitch, but in the towns, villages, and bustling streets of two different countries. Harry Kane was born and bred in London, but his very essence is a rich, complex tapestry woven from two distinct threads, the soul of Ireland and the grit of London. His father, Patrick Kane, hailed from County Galway on the wild, beautiful west coast of Ireland. This is a place carved by the Atlantic, known for its breathtaking, rugged landscapes and a cultural heartbeat that pulses with rich musical traditions. It's a world away from the concrete sprawl of London. In fact, that artistic spirit runs deep in the family. Some of Harry's own cousins, celebrated as the Kane sisters, are renowned traditional Irish musicians, their talent for performance expressed through fiddles and melodies. Their grandfather, Harry's great-uncle on that side, Michael John Kane, was a proud Gaelic speaker from the tiny, close-knit townland of Doros. He was a man of the earth, rooted in a culture stretching back centuries. When he passed away, his final journey was back home, to be buried in Letterfrack, a place where the Kane family roots remain firmly planted today. While his father's lineage gave him a deep, almost spiritual connection to Ireland, it was his mother's family that handed him his footballing destiny. His mum Kim was a true Londoner, born and raised, and her father, Eric Hogg, was the man who made that wild prophetic prediction about his young grandson. But Eric wasn't just some casual observer making a flippant remark. He understood the fire it took to succeed in the beautiful game because he had lived it. Back in the 1960s, a tougher, grittier era of football, Eric was a talented semi-pro, a formidable player for teams like Brentwood Town. He knew the sacrifices, the pain, and the sheer force of will required. The game wasn't just a passion in the Hogg family. It was in their blood. It was a legacy. Eric's brother, also named Harry, was so dedicated to the sport that he founded a youth club in Islington, giving countless kids a chance to play. In that household, football wasn't just a sport watched on a Saturday afternoon. It was their identity, their language, their DNA. Growing up in the quiet suburb of Chingford, young Harry was perfectly placed, just a 15-minute journey from the hallowed ground of Tottenham's old stadium, White Hart Lane. He didn't choose to be a Spurs fan. He was born one. It was his birthright. The family garden, a simple patch of grass with trees for goalposts, became his first stadium. This was his Wembley, his San Siro. Here he and his older brother, Charlie, spent endless, sun-drenched afternoons and cool evenings playing with their dad. They weren't just kicking a ball around. They were living out their dreams, commentating on their own imaginary cup finals. Patrick, his father, saw the flicker of something special in his son very early on. It wasn't just skill. It was an obsessive fire, an unshakable focus. He recognized it and nurtured it, signing young Harry up for Ridgeway Rovers, a local club with a surprisingly star-studded history. It was the very same club that had produced another future England captain a few years earlier, a guy named David Beckham, but Harry's path to glory wasn't going to be a simple, straight line. His journey was about to take a sharp, painful detour, a turn that would plant a chip on his shoulder so large it would become the very foundation upon which he would build his entire career. At just 8 years old, an age of innocence and pure love for the game, Harry Kane got the call. It was the dream of every football-mad kid in the country, an invitation to join the academy of one of England's biggest, most prestigious clubs. The only problem? It wasn't the team he loved. It wasn't the club whose shirt he wore in his childhood bedroom. It was their most bitter, most hated North London rivals, Arsenal. For one surreal year, the boy who dreamed of wearing the iconic lily white of Tottenham pulled on the cannon-crested red of the Gunners. The irony was almost cruel. There are photographs from that time that are now famous, showing a smiling, round-faced kid in an Arsenal team photo, blissfully unaware of the journey ahead. There's even one of him, hair dyed red in celebration, joining the street party for Arsenal's legendary Invincibles title win in 2004. He was, for a moment, one of them. Then, just as quickly as the dream began, it dissolved into a nightmare. After just one season, the academy ruthlessly cut him loose. The dream was over before it had even started. Years later, Liam Brady, the legendary Arsenal figure who ran the academy at the time, would admit the reason. The verdict on the 8-year-old was brutally simple. He was a bit chubby and wasn't deemed athletic enough. At an age when most kids are still learning to tie their shoelaces properly, Harry Kane was professionally assessed, judged, and ultimately written off. The rejection was a physical blow. His dad Pat vividly recalls the long, quiet walk to the local park right after they received the news. He remembers putting an arm around his devastated son and saying, "Listen, Arsenal are letting you go, but we are going to go back to Ridgeway and we will carry on, and we'll just keep working hard." This was the first true gut punch of his young life. For so many talented kids, this is precisely where the story ends. This was the precipice of that criminal path his grandfather had prophesied, not a literal descent into a life of crime, but a metaphorical slide into obscurity. It's the path of becoming just another forgotten name, a ghost story told in pubs about a talented kid who could have made it. It's a path paved with what-ifs and regrets. At that exact time in the London youth football scene, another young player, a boy named Benica Phobe, was the one capturing all the headlines and generating all the buzz. He was seen as the can't-miss prospect. But while Phobe's respectable career never quite reached the stratospheric heights predicted for him, Kane took the poison of that rejection and transmuted it into pure rocket fuel. "It might sound ridiculous," he wrote years later, reflecting on the sting that never left, "but every time we played them I thought, all right, we'll see who's right and who's wrong." He would later admit, with the clarity of hindsight, that getting cut by Arsenal was probably the best thing that ever happened to him. It lit a fire inside his soul that would never ever go out. After the Arsenal heartbreak, after being told he wasn't good enough, Harry returned to the familiar fields of Ridgeway Rovers. He went back to the beginning. The journey from there was a scramble, a desperate attempt to stay in the professional system. He bounced around, his family driving him to trials, trying to find a door that would open. He even landed a trial at another London club, Watford, and it was there, while playing for Watford's youth side, that fate finally intervened. In a twist of perfect narrative justice, he played a match against Tottenham's own youth team. And on that day, he didn't just play well. He utterly dominated. The boy who had been cast aside by one North London giant put on a masterclass against the other. That single performance, fueled by a burning need to prove himself, was enough. It earned him the invitation he had been dreaming of his whole life, a chance to join the academy of the club he supported, the club that was in his heart. As he would later put it, the iconic white kit of Tottenham Hotspur just fit him better. But getting his foot in the door at Spurs wasn't the final chapter. It was the start of an entirely new, and in many ways more arduous struggle. He wasn't some celebrated wonder kid who effortlessly glided through the youth ranks. Far from it. He was seen as raw, perhaps even limited. So the club sent him on a series of grueling loans to the unforgiving lower leagues of English football. It was a baptism by fire. First Leyton Orient, then the notoriously tough environment of Millwall, then Norwich, and finally Leicester City. These were not glamorous stops. This was the hard-nosed, unglamorous side of the sport, a world of muddy pitches, brutal tackles, and intimidating stadiums packed with hostile fans. It was a world away from the Premier League dream. His time at Leicester City, in particular, became a professional and personal low point. He struggled profoundly, unable to even make the first team for a club in a lower division. He was adrift, and the dream felt further away than ever. Many players are broken by this loan system. They lose their confidence, their momentum, and they fade away. This was a true trial by fire, a relentless test of his resolve and his belief in himself, the real definitive turning point. The moment the boy truly became the man came upon his return to Tottenham. A new manager, Andre Villas-Boas, was at the helm, and his assessment of Kane was no different from his predecessors. He wanted to send him out on loan again, but this time something inside Harry snapped. He had had enough of being pushed around, of being told he wasn't ready. This time he refused. He stood his ground. He walked into his manager's office, looked his boss directly in the eye, and uttered the words that would change the course of his life. He said, "My dream wasn't to play in the Premier League. My dream was to play in the Premier League for Spurs." It was an incredibly bold, almost audacious move for a young player. It was him grabbing the steering wheel of his own career, forged in the fires of rejection, tempered by the grit of lower league football. That single-minded, stubborn determination was about to be unleashed upon the world. He was done waiting for permission. The millionaire half of his grandfather's prediction was never really about the money. It was a metaphor for reaching the absolute, undisputed summit of his profession, a place that must have seemed like a distant galaxy for the chubby kid Arsenal had cast aside. Once Harry Kane was finally given his chance at Tottenham, a real, sustained chance, he didn't just take it. He seized it with a force that shook the foundations of the league. He never looked back. His breakthrough wasn't a gradual ascent. It was an explosion. Season after season, he evolved, adding new layers to his game, transforming from a promising goal poacher into one of the deadliest and most complete strikers on the entire planet. The records he shattered along the way are simply staggering, a testament to his relentless consistency. He didn't just climb the mountain once. He stood at the summit of English goal scoring on 3 separate occasions, winning the Premier League Golden Boot. In the remarkable 2020-21 season, he achieved a rare and historic feat. He didn't just finish as the league's top scorer, he was also the top assist provider, a perfect illustration of his evolution into a total footballer. He systematically demolished Tottenham's history books, becoming the club's all-time leading goal scorer. With a monumental 280 goals, surpassing the legendary Jimmy Greaves. When he finally departed for Germany, he stood as the Premier League's second highest scorer ever, with only the iconic Alan Shearer remaining ahead of him. He carried the club on his back, leading Spurs to a Champions League final in 2019, a massive and unforgettable achievement for his boyhood team. His impact for the England national team was just as immense, if not more so. He was handed the captain's armband in 2018, a symbol of his leadership and importance to the nation. He embraced the responsibility, leading the Three Lions to the World Cup semi-finals in Russia that same year, securing the tournament's golden boot for himself in the process. He then captained the team to the final of 2020 Euros and later the final of 2024 Euros, bringing the nation closer to glory than it had been in decades. On March 23, 2023, the inevitable happened. He scored against Italy and officially became England's all-time leading goalscorer, rocketing past the record held by Wayne Rooney. By the start of 2026, His international record was colossal, having earned over 112 caps and scored more than 78 goals for his country. Yet one thing remained elusive: a major team trophy. So in 2023, he made the biggest gamble of his career. He made a blockbuster move to German giants Bayern Munich, consciously leaving his comfort zone in pursuit of that final, validating piece of silverware. The pressure was enormous, the price tag astronomical, but Kane, as he always does, delivered. In his debut season, he took Germany by storm, winning the European Golden Shoe as the top scorer across all of Europe's top leagues. Then, in the 2024-25 season, the moment finally arrived. The long, agonizing wait was over. Harry Kane lifted the Bundesliga title with Bayern Munich, the first major team trophy of his incredible, hard-fought career. After nearly 700 grueling games for club and country, the so-called curse was finally, emphatically broken. What do you think is the most inspiring part of Harry Kane's incredible story? Was it overcoming that crushing rejection from Arsenal as a child? Was it his unwavering loyalty to Spurs for so many years? Or was it the moment he finally lifted that elusive trophy with Bayern Munich? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story of resilience and determination, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what is coming next. So we return to that fork in the road, the two paths his grandfather, Eric Hogg, saw for him all those years ago: criminal or millionaire, failure or glory. After being told at just 8 years old that he wasn't athletic enough, that he didn't have what it takes, he could have so easily faded away. He could have become another forgotten name, a story of unfulfilled potential whispered on the sidelines. That was the criminal path, not a life of law-breaking, but a life haunted by the crime of wasted talent, a life of what-ifs and bitter regrets. Instead, he chose the other route. He chose the path of immense difficulty and unimaginable reward. He took the searing pain of rejection and meticulously sculpted it into a relentless, burning, all-consuming drive for self-improvement. The boy who was supposedly a bit chubby and not athletic transformed himself into a physical powerhouse, one of the most durable and imposing athletes in the sport. The kid who wasn't seen as a natural-born talent dedicated his life to his craft, working himself into one of the most intelligent, clinical, and complete finishers the game has ever witnessed. The millionaire status he ultimately achieved has nothing to do with his bank account or his material wealth. It's about his legacy, a legacy built on grit, not just genius. He is England's captain and record goal scorer, a Bundesliga champion, and a Premier League icon. He is living proof that greatness isn't always about what you are born with, it is about what you are willing to build day after day, year after year, when no one is watching. His grandfather saw two possible futures, two extreme destinies, and Harry Kane made damn sure he fulfilled the right one.